morning. It's lovely to see you all. I hope you've been looking forward to this weekend as much as I have. So this is our catch-up cut flower patch weekend sowing that we're going to be doing. This is the video. Later on I'll be doing a live stream, and tomorrow I will be doing a Q&A call as well. So we're going to have some fun this weekend. So the days are starting to get a little bit lighter. So what we're going to do now is it's a great time to start sowing. So you'll either be sowing probably your second batch of hardy annuals if you started sowing in the autumn, and if you're brand new, this will be your first batch. And don't worry if you feel like you're behind. This is the time of year when I sowed my first set of seeds 12 months ago, and I managed to completely fill my garden. My flowers took a little bit longer to come in than people who'd sowed them in the autumn, but when they came in, they really came in, and I had over 100 bouquets and posies that I was able to give away last year as a result of starting sowing my very first seed of my whole life this time a year ago. So I'm just going to start off with showing you what I've got in place. So getting your stuff organised really helps you enjoy it more and helps you kind of sow more speedily. So I want to show you all the bits and pieces that I have been arranging this morning before I hit record on this video, so that I am right ready to go. So let me just give you a little tour. So first and most importantly, a cup of coffee. Secondly, so what I've done in the Facebook group, you'll see I have created this sowing guide for you with pretty much all of the seeds that I'm going to be sowing, all the ones that were in certainly in our October, November, December, January flower kits, right? And when the February flower kit comes out, you can do the same with this as well. But what I've done is I've listed them, and all I've done is divide them into the ones where light aids germination. So you can just sprinkle those on the surface of the soil. On the next page, you've got dark aids germination. So you know that you need to sprinkle some soil over these ones. And then I've also added on the ones that, let me see, I've put it all on. So one load of stuff you can print out and take out into the garden, so you don't have to keep checking online. And then I've done a couple to wait until February, which are our perennials, and a couple here to wait until March, when we can do a whole sowing all over again. So first thing you want to do is print these out, have a look through these, and just make a mark of the ones that you are deciding to sow. Now when I went through my seeds, I had over 40 different types of hardy annual seeds that I found kicking around. Some from Flower Club, some from last year, some from seeds I've been sowing through the year, some new ones I'm trying, all that kind of stuff. So I tried to cut it down, and so I've put some aside, and I've been really strict with myself. So stuff that I've got loads of, I'm not sowing again, and stuff that that's new or that I haven't done or I'd like to do a little bit more of, that's what I'm sowing. So then what I did is I went through I'm so organised. I went through and I wrote a list of all the ones I wanted to sow, right? And then I first of all, I wrote name labels for all of them. Okay, so name and date for all of them. So I did this bit inside where it's nice and warm. Name and date on the package. So I just did, 35 of those or whatever it is that I'm sowing. And then I went through and just allocated them to trays, right? So I'm going to show you the trays in a moment, but I was like, I'm going to do some of these in the tray 1, tray 2, I'm going to do some of these, tray 3. It just means that when I get out here into the cold, I'm not trying to figure it out as I go and not knowing how many I've sown and all the rest of it. So a little bit of organisation in terms of what you're going to do. And then, I can't believe I was this organised, I bundled them together. So I know that this is one of the trays, I know that this is one of the trays. I've been really organised. I'd have put like tray 1 on the front, but I didn't. But this is going to make it really easy when it comes to sowing, right? So let me show you through the kit that I've got in place here. So first of all, I didn't have this last year. I did this all on my kitchen table last year. My house was a little bit messy. So this year I've got a compost tray thing on my table out in my little plastic she shed that I have here. And I have a sieve here. So I am going to sieve my compost because I want to get out all of the big lumps and bumps when we're sowing seeds. It's really important that they don't bump into either huge air pockets or huge lumps of soil, which means that they won't grow as well. So I'm going to sieve my compost into here before I put it into my trays. So here's my compost. I stocked up before lockdown, thanks to my local garden centre. And so this is what I use, peat-free compost. Okay, so peat-free wherever you can, guys, please, please, please. I have plenty of that. And then I have, because now I know how many seed trays I need, I have got my seed trays out. So I like, personally, I've used all sorts of things, but I like using this variety of seed sowing modules, because what this means is I put them in a tray without any holes on the bottom. I sow my seeds into these modules, which means that I don't have to prick them all out. I'm going to put one seed in each module. There'll be a couple of exceptions and I'll explain where. But I'm going to put one seed in each module. I'm only going to grow a handful of each one, as per my plan. And then it means that I can tip water, I can pour water into the bottom of here and allow the seeds to, the soil to soak the water up from the bottom while the first time I water them. But also it means that once any of these germinate, because I'm going to put these, I'm going to start these off inside my house, right? I am clearing a big chunk of the kitchen out and I am claiming it for seeds. And it just means that when they germinate, I can lift this strip up, right? I'll sow all the same seeds in that strip and I'll be able to lift that out and put it outside into the greenhouse as soon as it germinates. What I don't want is, because I'm doing a mixture of different seeds in each tray, what I don't want is a load of these going crazy and these ones haven't germinated yet. And do you put them out? Do you keep them in? What do you do? And so this way I can hoik out the successful ones and give the others, because all the seeds will take different amounts of time to germinate. Some will take weeks and some will take just a matter of days. So best I can, I've kind of kept like with like, but again, I'm learning, so I don't know. But this way it means that I've got a choice. The other thing, I mean, you can be sowing in yogurt pots, you can be sowing in old milk bottles, you can be sowing in all sorts of different ways, right? But I've just got all my trays here and I've cleaned them all, so they're like sparkling new. So I know there's no disease or pests or anything like that in these. They are brand new. Well, they're not brand new actually, I've used them loads of times, but they look as good as new and they are ready to go. And then the other thing that I'm using is this, and they've all got lids, propagator lids. If you don't have propagator lids, which we just pop over the top to keep them nice and humid and warm while they're germinating. If you don't have any of those, you can use, just clear plastic bags if you want to instead, to just keep that warmth and moisture in your seeds. And then I'm going to use this seed tray because, well, mainly because I want to show you guys like what it means to do pricking out. When there are seedlings, what you'll find when you sow here is you get more like a whole load of seedlings all growing in one mass of soil, and you need to, when they get their first two true leaves, we're going to prick them out and pot them on into their own little pots, right? So they've got room to grow independently of the other seeds. So when you sow them like this, you will have to prick them out. When you sow them like this, if you manage to get one per module, you might have to pot them on before they go out into the garden, most of them in March. But you'll have like a big chunky seedling to pot on rather than a tiny little baby one, which you'll have here. I love pricking out. I don't know, I just find it really relaxing. So I like having seeds that I need to prick out, but it's your personal preference, right? I sowed all in seed trays like this and pricked out last year. This year, at the end of last year and this year, I've started being more fond of these, but just play around and see what works for you. Literally, it can be an old food tray. It doesn't need to be anything fancy at all, right? Just something that has got drainage holes in the bottom so the water can soak out. Always really important, because you don't want them getting waterlogged and your seeds then rotting. So it just needs to be some kind of plastic with a hole in the bottom. So I've got my labels, I've got my seeds, I've got my compost, I've got my trays. I'm ready to go. Okay, so what I've done is I've got my seed trays here and I've filled them up with compost. And then you just want to, if I can do it without knocking the camera over, tap them like that, so that there's no air pockets in the soil, right? And the soil will kind of fall down more into the gaps created. You might need to top it up with a bit more compost, right? So you've got your seed tray like this. Now there's different ways of doing this, right? So what you'll find is I'm starting with some old, so I've got Cerinthy here, I've got Dipsophilia I'm going to put in this tray here. So when you've got, I've just opened up the Cerinthy, when you've got bigger seeds like this, I am literally just going to plant one. I'm going to put one in per module. So I just pop it in, cover it over. You can either sprinkle soil over, cover it over, pop it in. Just make sure that it's got, you know, you've pressed it down so it's got good contact with the soil. Stick your label in and you're done, right? So I'm going to have like 3 cerinthes here, and that's because I'm not growing a flower farm, right? I'm not trying to get 1,000 cerinthes. I only need 3. Like, I've got a flower plan, a garden plan of how many flowers I'm growing, and last year I grew way too many. Doing a workshop on the 7th of February, I think it is, if you want to plan out your garden so you know how many plants you need and how many seeds you want to sow. So I know that I've already got loads of cerinthes. I know I've got plenty actually. I'm only really sowing these for you guys, so I don't need loads. So I'm only going to sow 3, right? And each one has got their own module. So as they grow, they'll fill that module with their roots. And then I'll be able to, if I need to, I can pot them on, or chances are by the time it gets to the end of March, which is when I can put these out into the garden, I'll be able to just tip them out of these modules and then plant them straight into the garden, and they will hardly have any root disturbance. They won't even know they've been moved, right? So I don't need to prick them out. They're just going to fill up their module and they're going to go. Now, when you've got smaller seeds, you can do the same if you want to, right? So you can just sow like 1, 2, 3 Gypsophila, for example. Now, I love Gypsophila. I would like to have loads of them. And so what I'm going to do, and because they're much smaller, they're much smaller seeds. So if I tip these out, helps if you've got clean hands when you do them actually. So you see how tiny these are, and you'll find as you go through your seeds, some of them are tiny, some of them are bigger. And with these ones, if you can even see them, they're so tiny. So with these ones, what I'm going to do is this is part of our January kit, these ones, I'm just going to sprinkle them here across this module, and this module. Just need a few more. I was doing this earlier and I spilt a whole packet of carnations over a whole tray, so goodness knows what's going to come up there. Here. Right, so I've just sprinkled a handful over these, and what will happen is that as these all grow and they become little seedlings and they get their first true leaves, I will prick these ones out into their own separate pots. And so instead of just ending up with 3 plants, I'll probably have about 20, which my neighbours will like as well. So I'll prick all these out when they start to grow. So don't feel like because these are modules you can only sow 1 in each. You can sprinkle or you can just sow 1. It's totally up to you. If you sow 1, the benefit is there's no root disturbance. You're literally going to take them from there probably into the ground at the end of March. If you sprinkle, you will have to prick them out, so you do risk damaging their roots, but you're going to get loads more plants. So it's totally up to you. Now, I am not going to take you through the sowing and growing of every single one of the plants that we have here, of the seeds that we have, because they're all done the same way. So either they're like this, where you've either popped them into the soil and just covered them over, or you've sprinkled them on the surface of the soil. And now we do is, because these ones need dark for germination, so we're just going to sprinkle this over, some soil over, press it down very carefully because you don't want to move all those seeds around. And then we're going to stick our label in. Once we've filled up all our whole tray, what you'll want to do is water these. My compost is quite damp already, so you don't want really wet compost. That's a big newbie mistake that I see, is overwatering. Your seeds will just rot, especially at this time of the year. So what you want to do is just have the soil so it's moist but not damp. And the way to do that, the best way to do that, especially when you've got little seeds in here, is to put like 1 centimetre of water into the tray underneath here. So I just stick this under the tap, put about 1 centimetre of water and leave it for about 20 minutes, no longer than that, half an hour at the most, and then tip all the water out from underneath, and the soil will have soaked up from underneath to water the seed. So you can use a fine watering hose over the top, but you're going to risk washing those seeds away if you do that. So what we do now is, this is all ready, it's all labelled once I've filled all of these up. So either your seeds are either ones where Dark aids germination, which is most of them, where you sprinkle some soil over the top, or light aids germination. You'll see the difference on the sowing guide, in which case you just sprinkle them and then you're done, right? So very, very, very simple. The seeds will need dark is what they need, dark and warm to germinate. But as soon as they germinate, so what we're going to do is I've got one of these lids, right? So I'll pop that over here. If you haven't got these kind of lids, these propagator lids, that's fine. You just put them inside a plastic bag, right? And especially if they don't need light to germinate, they just need the warmth, right? So I'm going to put these, you can put these in an unheated greenhouse and they will germinate, but it's just they will take a little while to germinate. I like to see mine do their thing quicker, so I keep them in the kitchen. So mine were all going, I've cleared a massive space in the kitchen windowsill, and I'm going to pop all of these in. I'll show you once I've got them all inside in the kitchen. And then what I'm going to do is, if this gets all full of condensation, I will lift it off during the day and pop it back on again at night. And then the thing to do is, as soon as any of these germinate, you want to take this off, right, to stop any kind of damping off, or plants getting too hot, wet and sweaty kind of inside of there, to give them some air. And then the other mistake I see newbies making is that once these start to grow, get them outside, right? So the biggest mistake I see is that people keep them in the kitchen too long. As soon as these germinate, they need light, and there is not enough light in your conservatory, in your kitchen, inside the house for these plants, and they will start to get leggy and they will stretch over to one side and they will be a really pale colour. They just won't be healthy plants. These are hardy annuals. They like to be treated tough. So the minute, don't mollycoddle them. The minute they thrive in the cold and the hard conditions. So the minute they pop up, get them outside, either into an unheated greenhouse, like a zippy greenhouse that I have, or if you've got a glass one and you're lucky enough to have that, out into your unheated greenhouse, or out into a sheltered spot in the garden, which means away from wind and rain, in whatever way you can construct something to keep them a little bit protected. Or failing that, I've seen people have great success in our group using the white crates that, the white storage crates that you get, plastic crates to like store kids' toys and stuff in. So you pop your seeds in there, and then you put the lids on at night and take them off during the day, so they get light and then they get shelter at night, or if there's heavy rain. I've even seen people in the group, someone shared a video with someone who'd got milk bottle cartons. I thought this is brilliant. Cut them in half, put your soil in, sow your seeds, and then pop the lid back on to use as the propagator lid. So I thought that was cool as well. There's so many inventive ways to sow your seeds. So what we're going to do with these now, so I'll put them in the kitchen. As soon as they start to pop out, I'll put them outside. When they get the first true leaves, if I've sowed more than one in a module, I will prick them out, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to that stage. But for now, just get sowing like this. I'm going to do the same thing with all of the seeds that I have. Label them all up, get them inside, and let's see what happens. So I'll do a live stream this afternoon from my little zippy greenhouse, so you can see what happens when we're actually growing the seeds, when they turn into seedlings, what we do next. And you might be able to ask some questions there, I'm not sure. But tomorrow on Sunday, we'll be having a Q&A call. The link's in the Facebook group. So you can join me for that, to ask me any of your questions or show me your seedlings, or just to have a catch up really and see how you're getting on. So enjoy your sowing and growing, and yeah, it's going to be fun to see all these seedlings pop up, hopefully at the same time as each other. Take care. The only thing I'm going to sow a little bit differently are my sweet peas. So I've got loads of sweet peas on the go, so I don't need to sow that many, but I don't have many of these high scent ones, which came from our October kit. I think it was October kit. So what I'm going to do is, you might have seen me sowing before, and if you haven't, look on December's sowing guide, sowing sweet peas into root trainers, which you can do. But I've just got a 9cm pot here. I've only got like a small amount of sweet peas here, and literally all I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 2 per pot. You can put 3 in if you want, but because I like to sow them in pairs, I like to grow them in pairs, so that I just take those 2 as a couple and then plant them into the ground in March. That's it, simple as that. So I'm just going to repeat that with all of these. So I'll have a few pots of these left a few pots of these full of sweet peas as well, with the high scent sweet peas. So you can use these pots, you can use module trays, you can use root trainers. Watch the December sowing guide if you're not sure about everything sweet pea, but really it's no more complicated than that.